welcome to the fourth and the final session of Mummy Wow!
I'm a big kid now.
And so hopefully you guys are making some transitions. You're out of the nappies into the pull-ups and you're practicing pulling them up and down, not obviously in public places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the question is, have you ever arrived?
Yeah, I think I have, yeah.
You have?
Yeah, pretty.
I think you've got a way to go.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's
just like
harsh truth, harsh truth.
Harsh truth.
Well,
Yeah. Well, have you ever arrived?
Nah, we can't. Well, as soon as we think we've arrived, all we've decided is to stop moving.
Yeah.
You know, we've decided that's enough, this is enough authority, this is, you know. But the reality of the kingdom is we serve an infinite God. There's actually, there's spaces we can grow to where we can have greater and greater influence in the world,
Yeah.
greater and greater power in our own world.
Well, maturity is as maturity does.
This true. You
So
can't.
you can lose your maturity in a moment.
Yeah, or does those moments just reveal where you're really at? That's an interesting conversation. Yeah, totally. Well, one of the things we talked about last time is that we're free. You know, the whole message of the gospel is that we're free. We're free from the law. We're free from the curse of sin. We're free from condemnation. But Paul the apostle talks a lot about what are we using that freedom for.
Yeah, he says all things are lawful, but not all things edify, so they're not beneficial.
Yeah, which comes back to our whole thing of you can order the fries every time.
Yeah, but that's not going to be beneficial.
It's not going to be beneficial. And in our life, it's not about coming into the rules of, okay, so what are the rules of Christianity?
Oh, I just need to discipline myself all the time.
Need to discipline. But there's something bigger than that where it says, okay, I've got to grow so that I can be making those more mature decisions as I go through life. Yeah,
but it's recognizing that also there's an enemy against our soul. There's an enemy out there that wants to keep us in infancy.
Yeah, discipline's not enough. We can't just discipline our way to growth.
Yeah.
There's actually a whole bigger deal going on.
Yeah, there's a bigger deal going on. I like what Jack Hayford said. He said, you can't disciple a demon, and nor can you cast out the flesh.
Yeah.
So what he's saying is, there's a role of discipline, and there's a role of deliverance.
Yeah. So there really are stuff that we just have to grow up in.
Yeah.
And be discipled in. But then there's also evil influence that's in our life that we need to somehow escape from.
Yeah, we need to be delivered from.
Yeah.
So wherever we hit ceilings in life, the question we've got to ask is it discipleship or is it deliverance?
Yeah, and I reckon usually there's a combination of those things going on.
Yeah, and Hebrews talks about, maturity being the ability to discern between good and evil.
Yeah.
So it's actually being able to have a level of discernment as to what you're up against. Is this a flesh issue where I just need to discipline my flesh, or is this a spirit issue?
Yeah.
Where I'm up against an evil force that's trying to come against me and God's purpose for my life.
Yeah, well the challenge is how do you get free from some of those evil forces?
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, okay, maybe we're learning what a discipline process looks like, you know, growing, challenging ourselves, you know, bringing other people into the journey so we're accountable. But if there's evil forces, what do we actually do to break those things out, to get away from them, escape them?
I love the simple instruction James gives in James chapter 4, verse 7, where he says, submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee. Being
the devil. So so the real challenge then is around this authority factor.
Yeah.
So,
do you know anyone with authority issues?
Yes. Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah.
I think within humanity, like all human interactions, the whole thing of who's in charge and who's the boss and all these dynamics, they're real. They're real all the time.
And sometimes it's hard to navigate because, even in the Bible, it says all authority is appointed by God. Government, there's family authority.
Yeah.
We've got authority at work.
Yeah.
They're all appointed by God.
Yeah. So if we're going to submit to God, there's a level of submitting to human authorities.
Yeah.
That is part of our submission to God, which is actually part of our freedom.
Yeah, but it's understanding that God's bigger than those authority. He gets the final say on everything. So in submitting to a boss, you're not submitting to that person, you're submitting to God.
Yeah, so submitting to God's order, God's plan, and all that space,
And realizing that God's more in charge of your destiny than any person. And God, like Joseph, can take, him from the prison to being prime minister overnight because he understood this whole dynamic of what was going on.
Yeah, exactly. So Joseph, in all those different spaces, he was able to submit and serve.
Yeah.
And he was ultimately free. Even in the prison, he's free.
Yeah.
because he's in God's plan, because he's got this ability to submit and to serve. And I think when we can submit and when we can serve, we're actually demonstrating our freedom.
Isn't that interesting though? He was in the prison and he was free. But today people can be free but still in prison.
Yeah.
In their heart, in their life. So freedom's not determined by your outer environment.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's about the authority that you're carrying internally that determines that. Like, the example we have in Philippians 2, that ancient hymn about Jesus, it says, "Let this mind be in you, which is also in Christ Jesus, though he was in the form of God, didn't consider it robbery to be equal with God, but he makes himself of no reputation, comes in the form of a servant, then he submits to death on the cross. Then God's highly exalted him, and given him the name above every name, that at the name of Jesus every knee will bow and every tongue will confess." And there's a picture in that. Yeah. There's a real a cosmic picture in that of what submitting and serving, actually, that's our way to power and authority in our lives.
Well, it displays our freedom. It takes a free person to submit.
Yeah.
You've got to have a level of security in yourself to serve. Yeah. Insecure people won't serve.
No.
Because they're looking for positions to get it over another person. Yeah. But it takes a level of security to serve. It takes a level of maturity to give up your rights.
Yeah. You have to be a grown-up to do that. Yeah. You have to be a grown-up to give up your right to sleep, all that sort of stuff, which is why parenting is such a challenge. Yeah. Because it's not the practical challenge of parenting that really gets people under pressure. It's the emotional challenge of, hey, this smaller thing is demanding so much from me. Yeah. But the place of maturity is where you understand, hey, I don't need my rights. Yeah. I'm here to actually fight for the future of this other person. Yeah. The smaller people,
Well, as the saying goes, do we bring kids up or do kids bring parents up or grow parents up?
Yeah. I think it's definitely a mutually beneficial, or hopefully a mutually beneficial sort of environment. Yeah,
it's definitely. But growing and understanding this is big because it goes against what the hierarchies of the world are really about. It's all about control and manipulation. Yeah. And, growing up as an adult in Jesus is removing yourself from anything that has power over you. Yeah. It's coming out from, as we talked about, that one up, one down relationship. Yeah. And it's putting yourself sometimes in a place where you don't know how it's all going to turn out.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're trusting God.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a bit confusing, some of what we're talking about here. And I think the Bible word is this mystery. Yeah. This, and I always think, when you're a grown up, you can sort of just wander down the road and find a restaurant, or you can, you're running out of petrol, but you can sort of think, there's a petrol station around here somewhere. But when you're a kid, immaturity someone else has to take care of, make it all make sense, But as a grown up, and living in life, is how much of that we'll figure this out as we go along? Can we handle?
And that's a huge thing because when you're young, you think you know it all.
Yeah, exactly.
But the older you get, you realize the less you know.
Yeah, and all those growing up transitions. Yeah. The challenging part of it is to grow. First thing you have to do is become consciously incompetent. Yeah. You have to realize there's stuff you need to grow in.
I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. And there's a human aversion to stepping into the mystery of, let's explore what we don't know. That's what holds people in a place of immaturity because they're not prepared to go through that uncertainty while they grow into that next space.
And that's where many people in their relationship with God hold God hostage to their unanswered questions. Well, I don't understand this, but that's the whole thing. This is a relationship deal. It's based on trust. Yeah. And trust is what fuels any relationship. The moment trust goes out of my marriage, my marriage is in trouble. If I'm having to know exactly where Kathy is 24/7, that's control and giving her rules. But I trust her because I know her heart. Yeah. And it's the same. When you understand the character and the nature of who God is and that he's for you, he's got an amazing future for you, you go, hey, I can trust. And sometimes trust is, hey, that means I've got to trust God in submitting to another person. Yeah. Yeah. Knowing that God's in charge of my future.
Yeah, knowing God's got it in charge and being comfortable with us not having to know everything. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good challenge. It's good challenge.
It's that move from rule-based thinking to love-based thinking. Yeah. And that's when we grow up. How much of our life is, determined by, what are the rules?
Yeah.
Just tell me the rules.
Just tell me the rules. But even,
Give me the job description.
Just tell me, keep it simple, But that's classic. That's the classic little kid thing. It's not fair. These aren't the rules. They did this, and Whereas the mature thing is, well, yeah, it's not fair, but we're actually moving through the challenges of life.
Yeah. And in the series, we're wanting you to really grab hold that there's no limit to where you can go in God.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really about what's in you and how you respond to it.
Yeah.
And you have the power to determine, and we can live limitless lives.
Exactly.
And when we trust in God, we can
live
lives that go beyond our natural abilities, go beyond our capabilities, and live supernatural lives. And that's part of spiritual maturity, is understanding that we have a God who's outside of our comprehension.
Yeah.
We know in part, but there's just so much more. And the more we learn about him, the more we grow, and the more life becomes exciting.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons we go to church.
Yeah.
That's why we gather in our e-groups. That's why we preach. That's why we listen to people preaching. We listen to, that's why you watch videos of people talking, not because there's not necessarily like answers to the questions, but there's this lift that pushes us, as we say, can we gather together to challenge each other to go higher in God. And so I'm really hoping that that's what's happened across these 4 sessions. That there's been a challenge, that you've been challenging each other in conversation, and even as you start talking about this one, what is it like to live not knowing what's going on? Yeah. We're praying that there's a challenge, there's a lift that says, come on, let's go higher. We're serving this I was going to say invisible, but he is invisible. This infinite God.
Yeah.
There's so much more that we can learn, so much more we can grow. And so, have an awesome discussion, keep talking, and look out for the next great e-group series that's going to, again, challenge you to go higher in God.
See you next time.
Yeah, next time.